3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is McKaylee. I work at Tattered Cover Bookstore, and we are here partnering this afternoon with Square Books in Mississippi, and we're so excited for this amazing book that we're celebrating today, A Dog's Courage, which we're going to get to more about. I just want to quickly go over some housekeeping things with you all. First and foremost, I want to say thank you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Thank you for supporting your local independent bookstores. We would not be here without you. It's been a crazy year, and indies have loved our communities in the best way that we could during this time. And while we may not be able to gather in the same space, smell the books and touch all of them, we're doing it the best that we can virtually. So thank you for being a part of our virtual communities and for continuing to be virtual communities. Before I go any further, I want to let you know that closed captioning is enabled for those who might want it or need it. There's a black bar down at the bottom of the screen with a button labeled CC on it. If you click that button, closed captioning is enabled should you want it or need it. Also, there is a chat that is next to the screen that you're watching us on. That is where you're going to be able to ask questions at our Q&A portion after our guests speak. So that's just a couple of housekeeping things for you. Also, the last thing I need to mention, and you just need to go do it, is get your copy of A Dog's Courage today. You can either get that at Square Books or Tattered Cover online. We're happy to serve all of your bookish needs. And now I want to turn it over to the co-founder of Square Books, Richard Holworth, who's going to introduce our guests today. So Richard, please take it away.
Thank you, McKaylee. It's wonderful to be here with you and co-hosting an event with the great famous Tattered Cover. As you all know, we're here today for A Dog's Courage, the new book by Bruce Cameron, where he once again captures the bravery and determination of a very good dog in the gripping sequel to A Dog's Way Home, the acclaimed novel that became a hit movie. Bruce is the #1 New York Times and USA Today best-selling author of Dog's Purpose, A Dog's Way Home, A Dog's Journey, all, by the way, now major motion pictures. The Dog Master, A Dog's Promise, The Dogs of Christmas, and others. He lives in California. He is going to be joined in conversation today by another best-selling author, Adriana Trigiani, the best-selling author of 18 books, an award-winning playwright, writer, director in film and television. Adriana is the co-founder of the Origin Project, an in-school writing program which serves children in Appalachia. Adriana, I'm turning it over to you and Bruce. Have a good time. I'm going to enjoy this so much. Thank you.
Okay, we're so tactic.
Okay.
Bruce, you see, Catherine had to move in. I panicked if you saw me. Richard, that was the most beautiful introduction. Thank you. We love Square Books. I can't wait to come back, and I can't wait to come to the Tattered Cover, and Bruce feels the same way. Get ready, everybody. Get ready. I wrote an email to Bruce, I think, was it the middle of the night, Bruce, where I said, "Nuts and chain, have I cried like this?" This story is so great, and it's a page turner, and I was emotionally moved through the whole thing, and I think it's so appropriate with all the climate stuff going on that Belle has to navigate a series of incidents, and well, some tragic, but a lot of things turn out. Like at the end, I was just like, oh, please, please. And it's beautiful, it's loving. Let's talk about this because you have two young lovers at the center of it with Belle.
Yeah, Olivia and Lucas are back. This is a sequel to the best-selling book, Dog's Way Home. Yeah,
I have it,
which was made into a movie. And so I think anybody who saw the movie or read the book would say, how in the world does this become a sequel? How do you do a sequel to this? And I just like sequels. I had a daughter, so I made a sequel, and I had another one, and that's just what I do. And so Dog's Courage. Thank you, Publishing Today. So excited for this book to come out because it really, it gave me an opportunity to discuss this life that Lucas and Olivia have, having gone through the first book. When we left them, we didn't really understand their relationship, but we assumed they were still together. Now they're married. They're newlyweds, or they've been married for a very short period of time, and they're on a camping trip in the Rocky Mountains, not knowing that due to a horrible gas tanker accident, a major fire is on the way. And what's interesting about that is that Catherine Michon, here, let me come in here, please. This is Catherine Michon. She's my writing partner and my life partner and my wife, and she keeps the hair off my shoulders. And she and I went to Colorado to do a research trip. And while we were there, this huge fire engulfed an enormous part of the Rocky Mountains, which is the underlying.
It was named the Cameron Fire, but we did not start it.
Right. Yeah, they named it for me.
That was just a coincidence.
Yeah, had to be, right? So we were dry, and we found, I learned a lot about what a Rocky Mountain fire tastes and smells like. I mean, you can feel it in the air. It shows up everywhere. A huge calamity, really coincidental to the fact that I was writing this book.
Are you kidding me? So you
yeah.
didn't get the idea from the fire. You already knew you were going to do a wildfire.
Yeah, I had it in
That's
mind.
so crazy.
I know.
The
I know.
Cameron.
Well, I think
So
that's heaven at work. That's
So
great.
the next thing I'm going to write is going to be about this author who wins the Powerball lottery, just to see if I still got it.
Bruce, let me talk. I want to talk to the readers about you because I adore you. You are hilarious. Catherine, your beautiful wife, we love her too. Your books, nobody's done what you've done. I mean, when we were kids, it was like they would show those old movies like Fred McMurray, or the Shaggy Dog. Remember those things? And so that's when the animals might talk or communicate. But you bring us two levels to everything you do, which is us, the human, and the dog, whichever dog it is. But in the case of Belle, Belle is an empathetic dog, not the smartest, but empathetic, has an EQ. And, there's so many wonderful ways that you can tell a story on these two levels. So I'm just throwing out when Belle goes into the house and that man is making his meat, his
Beef jerky.
What happened, right, his beef. It's terrible, I couldn't remember. But he was cutting it in strips. And I love the way Belle would beg and everything, but the mountain lions are also engaged in this. And when that guy gets a look and tears out of his own house, man, I thought, not only is it literary, it's cinematic at the same time. I mean, you laugh, you sort of,
Yeah, can you imagine?
It really was hilarious. And I thought, oh no, don't let that cat in the house.
Yeah, right.
Don't let that cat in.
No, you don't want that cat in your house.
Oh, don't come in the house.
So yeah, from the very first book, Dog's Way Home, Bella is a dog that loves cats, raised by cats accidentally. And so it is built into her way of looking at the world to take care of cats and protect cats. And so when she encounters these baby mountain lions and realizes they need her protection, now we've got her, Bella, trying to flee the fire. She is taking care of these kittens. She's trying to reunite them with their mother. And then Bella is also trying to find her way back to Lucas and Olivia, from whom she's been separated by fire and other circumstances. It's an
so loyal
story.
to them. She's loyal to them, and she's trying to get back to them. And it's so, the odyssey of it, Bruce, is just so, well, it's tender, it's funny, it's scary. I mean, listen, I was on the edge of my seat a lot of times. There are things that I learned. you did things so artfully when you trap people in these fires. You know, I didn't know anything about cement couldn't burn, didn't know that. That scene really got me too.
Yeah, it's
How did you learn about that?
there was a big fire out here in California, and a group of people found themselves huddled in a parking lot while everything around them went up. And they call it a flashover, I think, a burnover. And it's just, yeah, it's where the fire is so hot and moving so swiftly that if you can find a place to huddle for just a minute, it's going to go right by. It's moving at like 80 miles an hour. So it's not going to linger. It's just going to blow past. But those are going to be some really bad moments. And I just thought, what would that be like if you're trapped in, like, say, on a basketball court? And the scene to which we refer is a pretty scary scene where these people, they can't be evacuated. The helicopter comes in and flies out the children, but it's everybody else, all the adults, and they've got to figure out a way to survive. And they decide to huddle by themselves on this basketball court and hope that they make it. And of course, this is told from a dog's point of view, so the dog doesn't really understand what they're doing, but can sense the absolute terror of everybody who is huddled there hoping to survive. I think it's one of the most climatic scenes in the book, and it certainly grabs readers.
So I loved, so Belle was raised by cats, but we're not talking about the kind of cats in this book. These are mountain lions.
Right.
This is a whole different kind of cat.
Yes.
This is like now I'm intrigued by that. Now, you did it in the first, in the prequel, which we call them now because this is a sequel. In the first book, how did you come to the mountain lions? How did you figure that one out? Why did you choose that?
Oddly, to do research, we, after talking about it, elected not to adopt a mountain lion. Because they need a huge litter box, and we live in a small place. We were just like, we'll have this big sandbox in our living room. So we decided not to do that.
Yeah, but you could have done, as I'm reading along, I'm thinking to myself, well, how you would meet cats along the way, maybe, but you chose this very bold cinematic choice. I mean, that's like, the wild world of wonder.
Yeah.
But you also make them so empathetic and interesting.
Yeah, thank you.
What I love about your work, everything matters, everything. And there's this river of love under it and loyalty.
Oh, thank you. And what really made me excited about writing A Dog's Courage is that the plot, the action, I got to really dwell in that in this book because so many scary, interesting things happen. And I think you really care about these two mountain lion cubs. We call them boy kitten and girl kitten.
Girl kitten, boy and girl. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I was afraid they were going to get killed.
I know, the dog has to protect them. I mean, and that's what would happen to this dog, this particular dog who was raised by cats, then gets in A Dog's Way Home, gets separated from his person, winds up meeting and adopting a lost mountain lion cub whose mother has been hunted. And that mountain lion cub, then they form a bond that lasts the whole book. And it was such a great adventure story. It made a great movie. It was so much fun to have, the mountain lion in the movie version of Dog's Way Home. There was no mountain lion. I mean, it was all CG. So Shelby, this wonderful dog, who's, by the way, on the cover, that's Shelby. She's the actor dog.
That's the
she had to interact with stuff that wasn't. She interacted with nothing. There was no cat there, so she had to be taught to interact with nothing.
Wow. Now, see, that's always amazing to me.
Yeah.
How they train the animals to, and now, in the old days, who knows what they did, but now the animals are really cared for. They're not. There's no abuse involved. There's no hitting them or any of that. So it's
No.
really interesting when you watch the movie, you can't even kind of believe that. But the dogs are astute also. They're very astute. So it's not like,
Yeah. And the dogs on the movie, they're trained with love, which was not how I was raised, but they're trained with love. They don't ever hear no. They're never spanked or anything
I was
like
just
that.
about to bring up your beautiful mother who's now in heaven, because
Yeah.
I felt like this was such a veil over this book, because it's really about parenting and motherhood and fatherhood and those connections that we have, which you do so artfully, Bruce. Really beautiful writing. I picked some things out.
Oh,
I thought I understood why the people were so happy. Life is just better with a dog. Cats are not dogs, but they're pretty good. The male dog who had so briefly been in my pack, Gus, left on a leash led by a tall man. And Trixie went out the door with a weeping woman. I mean, I just love the way you write. If I had understood that they had, that each had their own person, I would not have been so suspicious of their motives. Sometimes, instead of remaining with Olivia and Diane and all the animals, I was taken to the outside area with the big, soft rooms with Olivia and Lucas and all the people. More and more cars drove in the streets and humans walked around, and a lot of them were sad and needed to pet me and give me hugs. I saw children and every so often a new dog. The children and the dogs did not seem sad. It's like every layer of the scene, you feel it.
oh, thank you. That's
So
scene
beautifully
is where.
rendered.
Sorry.
I said it's so beautifully rendered.
Oh, thank you. That scene is, so there's a scene where this town is going to go up. Like everybody, the firefighters are abandoning it. Basically, they're evacuating everybody. But that means all the animals at the animal shelter are going to go up in smoke. And there's no way, there's not even time to euthanize them. And Lucas and Olivia and some other people make the decision that they're going to stay and defend the animal shelter from the fire, which is quite the ordeal, really hard. But it can be done, because when that fire we were talking about earlier, when that hit that town up in Northern California, some guys just hung out, just stayed behind and saved the town, just racing around their pickup truck and with shovels. And this is a similar thing where there's a decision made. We're going to defend the animal shelter. We're going to cut down the trees. We're going to dig the berm. We're going to do all this stuff. And we have to do it now and fast, because here comes the fire, and it is moving. And then the town gets hit. And then, so that scene is in the aftermath, where there are some survivors, and people are starting to pick up the pieces of their lives in this town that's just been destroyed.
They were very wise to put it out for Mother's Day and Father's Day, and I want to say this to everybody. I know that I'm getting several copies because I think it's the perfect gift for right now, and I also think that it's going to be a book club fave again. Your books, everybody loves your books for book club because they know they're going to have a satisfying experience, and it for animal lovers, it just helps them inform everything about the kind of stories they want to read and tell. And you're number one, Bruce.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you said that about. I'm glad you said that about the times, because what's happening now is that people are coming out of their holes. They're seeing their shadows. They're starting to get back into the swing of things. But our dogs don't know anything about this. They just think that we collectively, the human race, made a decision that we were going to stay home with our dogs, which they vote for. They said that's absolutely the best decision you could possibly make. And here's a book that sort of lets you know what it's like. A Dog's Courage lets you know what it's like from the point of view of a dog who is suddenly separated from his people, because, or her people, as in the case of Belle, because it's absolutely true that our dogs are sort of mentally and emotionally unprepared for life getting back to normal. They think normal is what we've been doing for the past year. And so just think about what it's like from a dog's point of view to be separated, to have that horrible, lonely feeling. That's what this book's about.
If my husband goes to the grocery store, because of course he couldn't work because of COVID. If he goes to the grocery store, the dog waits and cries when my husband returns.
Yeah.
You know, like cries from his soul. Like, okay, he just went to the grocery store to get some milk. We need to calm down here, you know, but they don't understand that.
If I go to the grocery store, I have to go back to the grocery store because I always forget the things that I was supposed to pick up. Although I usually find some really interesting stuff that I brought home that we never eat, but it's interesting.
Things that were on sale.
Yeah. Canned prawns and bean juice. I think, well, that sounds great.
I love too how Belle can I just have a piece of cheese? Does anybody have any cheese? You know, every time I hit a cheese moment, I just went, oh man, it's real. It's so real and so fabulous. You know, this is going to be a major motion picture. I mean, this was like your Bridge on the River Kwai for Belle. Every moment there was another ridge and there was another scene, and I thought, how are you going to? But you know, your ability with the narrative tension, which is, I think, listen, just me talking, I think that's the main problem people have. They might be able to build a world, but then can you escalate? Can you fill the reader with the emotional drive? And people who love your books love that about you, that you tap into.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's a dog point of view. It's an acquired taste because you have to go into it willing to accept the idea that the dog can narrate. Certainly, my dog can't narrate, so I'm not sure that if you're willing to accept that magical premise, then the rest of it falls into place. If it's otherwise, in my opinion, pretty realistic, especially the scenes where they're fighting with the fire and you know, but there's some, and then if you read A Dog's Way Home, there are some characters that we loved from that first book, and it's just fun in a sequel to be able to bring the characters you love back to the world that you've created, so we can all see how they've evolved since the last time we saw them.
Oh, that I love sequels. I think most readers do, particularly when they build. Then they're really great. Yeah, if you and I believe you. I think you hit it over the fence here.
Oh, thank you. That really is. I try with my sequels to make them bigger and more than the original book. And that was when I took A Dog's Way Home and I started noodling on how was I going to expand that world. I wanted to make it a tighter plot. I wanted to make it so that we cared even more about the plight of the dog. And then I wanted us to be more invested in the people. In A Dog's Way Home, we're invested with the people, but then the dog gets sent away and runs away and finds herself in the wilderness of the Rocky Mountains for 2 years. That's 2 years where we don't really know what's going on with Lucas and Olivia. Right. So in this book, we are with Lucas and Olivia a lot more. And because Bella cares so much about Lucas and Olivia, we care so much about Lucas and Olivia. I loved their relationship. I really did. And of course, something huge happens that I did not see coming. I mean, I just want the readers to understand that is it magical? To me, you understand animals. You understand from the way you set them in a scene and the way they sit, the way they move through a scene, the way that you do know what they're thinking. Well, I try to put myself in the mind of a dog. I'm a guy, so I'm already halfway there in some respects. And I just feel like if I can just capture the idea that kind of no matter what's going on, this is an animal. These dogs are creatures that are always looking forward to what's coming next and are always optimistic and happy.
They're always in a good mood.
And they're in a good mood. My dog has just
Always.
never been cranky with me.
Never once. No. And they're
Yeah.
so easy to please. When you were a kid, what informed your writing animals the way you do? What kind of things did you watch and read that had you grow up and do this whole oeuvre of dog books?
I watched and read everything that came by. I just have always been a reader, and it's funny, I was just on one of these events with schools, and I was telling the children, I think reading is even more important than writing, because writing is a great skill to have, but reading and comprehension will get you in the far ahead in the world, and almost kind of doesn't matter what it is. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe that. My reading was influenced by my parents. My father got tired of me ordering every book that was on the scholastic list. Yeah. He just got tired of that. So he marched me over to his bookshelf. I was in 4th grade, and said, "You're reading these books now." And they were all the adult books. And so I grew up reading adult books. Wow. And it was a revelation to go from
like adventure stories, right?
Yeah, mostly. Yeah, my dad was mostly into thrillers, so that was what I kind of got into myself. But it was a revelation, because children's books are very simple, and they want to make sure they don't scare you too much or affect your emotions too much. Grown-up books are not like that, and I was astounded when I dove into some of these books and was taken in these taut, scary circumstances, and these people I cared so much about, and then one of them might get killed or something. I was like, that doesn't happen in any book that I've ever read. I was hooked. And I don't know, the animal thing, I think I've always just, whenever I see any animal, a horse, an NFL football player, any kind of animal, I try to imagine what the world would be like from their point of view. And dogs are especially easy for me because I grew up with dogs. Cats are a little more difficult because they're hard to understand. But I write about cats, and in a dog's courage, of course, I'm writing about mountain lions. So I had to do a little research about that, since I wasn't actually willing to go out and play with mountain lions in the mountains.
That been wise.
I didn't sound like fun. I don't know.
There's also in your books always the family, there's a family. Now you have this young couple who are starting their life together. And it's not necessarily that you solve all the human problems, but you present them in a way that I feel that if only they looked at things in a more rational, dog-like fashion, they wouldn't have all the problems that they have.
I think that's exactly right. I think we would be much better off if we lived like the dogs, and instead of being obsessed with things that have gone wrong in the past, we just simply look forward to what's going to happen in the future. And, a dog will knock over your trash can and eat your trash and not think at all about how they're going to be in trouble when they get home, when you get home. But you get home and they might say, wait, this is not going to go well. But up until that moment, they were like, that was great. I got to have some free trash,
Exactly. And they never know they're in trouble till the moment they're in trouble.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I just saw a message that I don't know what it said. I think it said, Bruce, you're out of your league talking to Adriana, because you are
Michaela,
you are just
everyone.
I just want to tell you, you are just a jewel. I mean,
Well, I adore you, W. Bruce Cameron. The W is silent. The W is silent when we talk. Listen, I laugh so hard when everybody needs to have you come in person. That's my thing. Every town, every single indie bookstore's got to have you because, oh my, you will never laugh harder than when Bruce is talking. I mean, today we are presenting this opus of yours and it's fantastic and it's going to rocket to the top because what better gift? I mean, it's perfect.
Thank you. Perfect for Mother's Day.
You know, when you're reading a book and you go and you can think of 10 people that are going to love it, you got a hit on your hands. Yes, McKaylee, darling. What happened to Richard? He's in a box.
He's in a funk.
You put him away. Where is he?
I am so grateful for this conversation that the two of you had. It's such wonderful questions and just such great banter back and forth.
Here's Richard.
There's Richard.
Like a miracle.
I'm here.
We're gonna do the audience Q&A right now. Richard, you can be here if you like. We have the audience chat is next to the screen that you're on right now, and that's where we're going to be filtering questions from the audience. Which the first one is there already a movie in the works for A Dog's Courage, which I think you hinted at, but I think they're wanting a little bit something more definitive if it's the case.
First, I want to say that, Adriana has this new diet book out where you can't eat because you're just holding a book the whole day. It's like, I'm starving here.
This is my additional workout. My pandemic workout.
Pump up those forearms.
Either hand. Hey, I want everybody to see it. Look at how that cover plays too. It's gorgeous. Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and
there is
as
a
I
movie.
said, that's Shelby. So, I'm married to a movie director, and that means that everything that I do, we consider whether or not it could be made into a movie. When I write a grocery list, we consider, is this good enough, or should I add some beef? And then, of course, I leave it on the counter, and I go to the store, and I come home with fried lard or something like that. And so, so there is a movie in the works in that the people who would write the screenplay, which is Catherine Michon and Bruce Cameron, I've heard of the first one. If those people are thinking about what this would look like as a screenplay, we don't yet have an assignment to write a screenplay. There hasn't been conversation around turning this into a movie. In fact, I'm not sure when we're going to spring it on the studio that it's time for them to make a movie out of A Dog's Courage. But it cries out to be made. We've already got the movie star dog. We've already got the hero dog, so we're good.
And I feel like that they don't dramatize them like they used to. There used to be more animal-centric movies, and really you lead the charge. We need it. You got the great Gavin Polone. That guy, he runs Hollywood. He can get it done.
Yeah, he does. Gavin Polone is the producer.
That's right.
He could get it done. He's the producer.
Very
and
famous.
Yeah, we're lucky.
Lucky, please. He's smart. These are great stories.
So this is speaking in the movie realm. What do you enjoy writing more? Books, movie, or television?
What do you think, Adriana? Which one do you like?
I love them all for different reasons, but
I would also, for Adriana, you can also add plays into that too. I would throw that in there for theater.
I love them all.
Yeah,
I really do. But books are like your private joy, aren't they, Bruce?
The book world means, especially because the book starts out and it's not based on anything else. So for me, writing fiction, I get to create the world, the character, the situations. I get to have the conversations between the characters, and it all unfolds up here. It's really wonderful. It really feels like I'm in a multiplex and I'm watching a movie beamed just for me. Screenplays are much more of a collaborative work. The studio has a lot of input into it, and that is that's a challenge. On the other hand, a screenplay goes much more quickly. It's much shorter, and so I agree with Adriana. I enjoy all of it for various reasons. And I don't really have a favorite. I do love writing books, but they do also take anywhere from 6 months to a year. And that's 6 months to a year with a single project. Whereas screenplays, you could have a couple in a year. And we actually have done that. We had 2 movies released in 2019. So we've done that together.
And I can't tell you how hard that is to get all that work done. And then it's a beautiful piece of work. I mean, Catherine and Bruce have it going on.
Oh, they really
It's a very big deal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In that same vein, and writing, and Adriana, you can jump in about this too, of what is your thoughts on outlining, and or do you have different processes for different projects? I think they mean like your planning process, is what I'm getting.
Well, I can't speak for Adriana, but she's a genius and she probably does it much better than I do. What I do is outline like crazy. I do several different drafts of the outline. After I've written my first draft, I re-outline because how much it changes. My office, I have taken my outline and it's on the board, and every draft is on the board for the book I'm writing right now, so that I can see differences and so that I can see a synopsis of what each chapter is about. I think outlining is as important, if not more important, than the novel. And I will note, I was an unpublished author for many, many years. I wrote books. I wrote 9 books, but none of them ever were published. And I realized too late for those books, but I realized that I would just sit down and start writing. I'd have a world and I'd have an idea of some stuff I wanted to happen that was really cool, and I would just start writing. And that's like building a house where you say, well, what would be really cool? So let's put a garage here. Oh, the driveway isn't there. Okay, well, now what are we gonna? That's how I would build a house. You get there and you'd say, why is the front door on the roof? There'd be problems with it. So having a blueprint, having a story outline, that's how I do it.
Me too. I do it just like you do it, but I have to tell you, those 9 books or whatever that you didn't publish, if you take the story, and this is for whoever wrote in, take that story down to the studs, boy meets girl, whatever, and start over again and outline it. Because here's what's great about when I read you. I don't want to put it down. That's an art. And so like when I did like this, reading over the past couple of weeks, and I would like put it down and I'd go make coffee and be like, I'd forget to make the coffee. My husband would be like, where's the coffee? And I'd be like, oh, sorry, I'm reading. So what you have learned in your outlining is what scenes matter.
Yeah.
What scenes matter. And then if Belle is lost, how does she get found? And then you build, you can feel it. And it doesn't feel like scaffolding or an outline. It's again, that word narrative, that phrase narrative tension.
Yes,
very,
very
you.
much so.
Expert. Read this. If you buy this book and read it, you'll know how to write a book. My personal opinion.
They do say that reading is the best way to learn.
Everything. Bruce says it all the time. Read.
Yeah.
So also, speaking of writing, and as we continue this kind of craft conversation, and this is like my 3rd or 4th event with you, Bruce, and so I'm so excited to hear you talk about this again. But what is it like writing children's books, and what has it brought to your life, if anything?
Well, if I've answered that question before, you may be disappointed because I'll probably make up a new answer. But I think that children's books, the most important thing about children's books is that the children don't want to be talked down to. They will instantly pick up condescension. I never look at writing a kid's book as, oh, it's just for kids. So, if there's a hole in the plot or something doesn't make sense, or there's a scene that it doesn't really work, that's for kids. I never feel that way. I feel like my responsibility is to regard children as small adults. So I will outline, I will try to make it tense. The book, I just finished recording the audio book for, I just finished, that was not written for children.
It was written for children.
Oh,
that's the Giant Golden Book edition.
Oh, perfect.
Wow.
So I just recorded Cooper's Story, a book that will be out in June, and I did the audio book. Catherine directed me, so it worked. Otherwise, it wouldn't have, I don't think. And I was struck by how much I enjoyed that book. I mean, I know I wrote it, but and it's a children's book. But I went through the same process. I outlined several times. I kept focus on plot. I kept focus on what would be really important to the reader. And that's what I try to do with my kids' books. And I've got this whole series books called Lily to the Rescue, which are for even younger readers than what I've been writing to. And I love Lily. Lily is this rescue dog who winds up living in a rescue and helping save baby animals. And it's a book for children. There's an illustration almost every page. It's called a chapter book. But I find that my responsibility is to write a story that any adult would appreciate if it were made into an adult movie or something like that. That it's not a dumb story. And that's the greatest pleasure is to know. And when I go to schools and when I talk to school librarians or talk to parents who have been homeschooling for a year, they will tell me, I've got a child who's a reluctant reader, doesn't like to read, but my child will read your books because the way in is through a dog. The children don't have to try to see themselves as the character. They are experiencing a character that is unlike them, and yet they can so identify. And that makes me realize that my purpose as an author probably isn't to write exciting grown-up books. It's probably to write kids' books, because that is making a difference in so many children.
Oh, and you know, that's a cause after my own heart. I love that, Bruce, because there aren't enough. Because if a kid doesn't like to read but the child likes animals, oh my gosh. Now, what Richard held up the children's version of the Iliad and the Odyssey. Well, do you remember Tales from Shakespeare by Charles and Mary Lamb? Okay, well, Bruce, I'll send it to you. It makes Shakespeare real to the kid, and it doesn't shrink it. They were so artful in the way they chose how to tell those stories. They're delicious for adult reading. They really are. I used to read them to my kid. I love the way they did it. But that's what you're doing, and we need it because kids are not spending enough time reading.
Yeah.
We can sort of tell.
There's so many distractions,
yeah.
And they'd rather chat with each other or do social media. But that reading, that is going to be so important. I don't think texting is going to be the most employable skill of the future.
I don't either. And I don't think social media, this is how I look at it. It's magazines. It's just magazines with real people. Okay. If you look at it that way, you get your head around it. It's magazines with real people who I don't really care what they're wearing. Why is this on my phone? I don't get it. So, but now they've gotten smart. Now they're selling, you see. Now you watch the regulation come in. It will.
Yeah.
It will. The minute.
Well, I'm glad because it always warms my heart when you talk about reluctant readers, because that's something that I and Tattered Cover have a huge passion, and I'm sure that Square Books does too, of being indie bookstores, of being a stepping stone and a place for kids. And your books are some of them that we recommend easily.
See there, Bruce?
Yes. So thank you for that. I hate to even think about ending this conversation that we have here, but we love asking this question here on our virtual events at Tattered Cover. So I hope Square Books will oblige us here, but it's actually for both of you, for Adriana, for you as a reader, and for Bruce, you as the writer. Okay. But what did this book, A Dog's Courage, teach you?
Oh my God.
And I would love it if Adriana could go first, and then we could end with our author of the hour.
Okay, I hope I don't cry. I hope I don't cry. I try not to.
You can do it. I believe in you.
Loyalty, I'm going to cry. Resilience, love. I relearned them through these characters and animals. Mostly love. I think that that's really what Bruce does, that I think I don't even understand how he does it. But I am with the characters in the book, and I'm with Belle. And I'm worried the whole time something bad will happen. And love. Finding your way back home, the fear of abandonment, the fear that you'll never see that person you love again. They're big. They're the monster themes of all art. And yet, Bruce does it with a gimlet eye sometimes. It's funny, and then you're going to cry like crazy. And for anybody who didn't know what Shane was, it's one of the saddest movies you'll ever see, and directed by one of my favorite directors, George Stevens. And I feel that all the time when I'm reading your books. I'm in that world. So that's what I learned.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. Gosh, it's just it's so fun to do this. I would do this every day.
Okay.
I would talk to you every day. So what I learned from A Dog's Courage, in A Dog's Courage, Lucas and Olivia do not abandon Bella, even though the dog is lost in the Rocky Mountains. They don't know where. Everything's on fire. It's the biggest fire in Rocky Mountain history. And yet they don't quit. They don't abandon their dog, because a dog will never abandon us. And I think that lesson really came up for me as I was writing this book. These characters are not going to abandon each other. They don't care what the odds are. They don't even really process the odds. They just know they belong together, and neither will stop searching until they find each other.
Mm.
I would just like to say thank
Richard.
you to both of you for this today, but moreover, of course, for the way both of you have pleased so many readers across the world, but among our customers too. And Adriana, I've got a title for a cat book for you.
Lay it on me.
A Cat's Lack of Purpose. That'll work, won't it?
My cat in Loserville. My cat. They cannot be trained. They cannot be trained.
Well,
You've hit the nail on the head. My Smokey Renee cannot be trained.
Well, and we're here with Square Books and Tattered Cover Bookstore celebrating the release of A Dog's Courage by Bruce Cameron. Adriana and Bruce, I want to give you each a chance to remind people who you are, where they can find you online, and anything else you can say before we close it out. And I'll ask you to start
I'll go
again.
first. Bruce, I'll go
Yep.
first, and I'll keep it. I want to say this to our readers. Please order. You can order from anywhere in the world through these two bookstores. Please, please. The online sales happen because, people buy potato chips and gasoline, and then they buy a book. Don't do that. Your local bookstores are the cultural hubs of your community. Please order through them. I now have a standing policy. So when I need A Dog's Courage, I'm going to order from these two stores. Please order from the stores, because you know what happens? You establish a relationship, and then before Bruce's next book comes out, you get an email, you get a call. You're engaged in the world of books, and that's what we want. Bruce.
She's gonna make me
Wow. That was beautiful.
That was an indie next speech if there ever was one.
I'm gonna and I will mention that you can that both Tattered Cover and Square Books have a supply of signed book plates, so you can get a signed first edition of A Dog's Courage,
Going in.
which that'll be worth on eBay $5 or something like that. So be sure to do that.
Nice.
Be sure to do that. Be sure to do that. I've been so honored. These are two of my favorite bookstores in the world. I've done events at both stores. They make you feel so welcome as an author, and that is a wonderful thing. And I just have to say, Adriana is the best talk show host I've ever been on, and I've been on Oprah. So I'm going to tell you, she's the best.
Please do not, we compare nothing to the Popra, please. There's only one.
Well,
Right.
then you can be a very close second. If you all stick around, I'll just finish closing us out here. Once again, this has been Celebrating A Dog's Courage by Bruce Cameron, which you can get today at Square Books or Tattered Cover. We appreciate you so much. Maybe tonight you think about ordering locally from a mom and pop restaurant. Local businesses are here because of you. Thank you for your continued support. We appreciate it more than you know. Thank you, everyone, once again, and stay safe. Happy reading. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
And we're out.